Welcome to the bold analysis, ladies and gentlemen. I want to read straight a message here that has been circulating for quite some time, and they've taken time to try fact check that message. The new president's communication team has chosen a private contractor to cover the inauguration of the fifth president of Kenya. Local media, which would have done a joint production at no charge, will receive the contractor's live feed. Wow. Now, what exactly is happening? And I think there are many people who are wondering, and you've seen that information, and I just want to break down a bit to understand that information for people maybe to understand what exactly is happening. There are two ways. While there are media houses that can afford to even do live production from Kasarani and project them in their screens, but mostly the Kenyan media houses, due to public interest, for example, an event like Inauguration has the public interest, they will work jointly and cover that event. But mostly it's normally done by KBC, then KBC will feed the rest, especially if it is like a public event, like even a holiday. And a good example is Parliament, where everyone gets that feed from the parliamentary production team. So in this one, it is a ploy that can be seen as sidelining the media houses in the country, because they will still have done joint one. Even though what I understand is that they can dispatch cameras and reporters in different centers of interest. For example, in Nyeri, when Rigathi Gachagua maybe would leave Nyeri to come and make that historic trip to Kasarani, maybe from William Ruto's home in Karen. I don't know whether Rigathi will come from Nyeri or maybe the Karen home to that place. Maybe there will also be another team from State House that will film whether President Uhuru Kenyatta might attend. We'll also try to figure out whether Raila Odinga might also attend that. So there's going to be different sections of different angles of covering that. And so the media houses can just dispatch the reporters. But what can also, I have also gathered, is there are limited accreditation to the media houses and that are supposed now to cover, to take place, to occupy the media gallery in Kasarani at the inauguration ceremony. And this complaints, or rather such a plan, can be seen as a revisit of the media. I want to draw your attention to something that happened in this campaign. During the Kenya Kwanza campaigns, they were on top of the cast complaining about skewed media coverage by the media house, and it was, according to them, they understood that the Kenyan media were more inclined, rather was supporting Raila Odinga. But one thing I can say is each media house had its own priorities. Maybe there are those who favored Raila, there are those who also favored William Ruto. But on the Azimio side, they never spoke about the media space in that election. Maybe at some point we might also look at the space of media in the last general election when that report is finally out. Now, two, on the last rally, when Raila Odinga held the rally in Kasarani, while William Ruto was also holding rally in Nyayo, they complained of that skewed coverage. Remember, during the manifesto launch, they were criticized over the split screen, especially the Kenya Kwanza manifesto launch, the split screen where Wajackoyah on the other side and William Ruto team were on the other side. I want to make it clearly that if this is the direction, then I can say without fear of contradiction that they are starting on a wrong This is not the direction that I think it should take. These terms like private contractor is countermarried by the words like private developer and should be avoided because Kenyans have believed that when there is a private interest in something, then it can easily be compromised to fleece the public coffers. And the privatization of government projects, or rather of something that is touching on government, is normally very skeptical on its objective. But then that be it. What does this cast on the regime of Deputy President, or rather now the incoming President-elect, William Samoei Ruto? And in this one, I'll not mince my words, because the truth and what people can see is that the freedom of media is under threat. Freedom of media is under threat because when they can start limiting, how someone will be tempted to think and to feel that it will mop up to something, it will come up, metamorphosize to something else, or it will take different forms. Will there be calls from State House to media houses to air some specific stories and drop some stories, or maybe talking to the editors and making sure that only what is decided by the occupants of the house on the top of the hill is what the Kenyan people consume? This is a very big threat because we have an agreement, not we have an agreement. There is a general, there is a dominant narrative that ODM party should not play the opposition role that William Ruto is inviting it to do. And so the Kenya Kwanza government should be left to do and run their government alone without the so-called watchdog. It means that I see less activity by the opposition front. I don't think they will be strong as the previous opposition outfits had tried to be vibrant. And so the media and the civil society will have to swing into action to play the opposition and the watchdog role. This time round, it's going to be a little bit different. But I have always insisted and looked at it that the Kenya Kwanza government have elements of revisit and revenge missions. The challenge is these revisit and revenge missions might actually backfire, because the more you press harder to revenge and revisit, you seem to bring friction, and friction with the public can actually eat on your legitimacy. For example, if you go after the media, probably because things did not go well, and remember when William Ruto made the speech in Karen, he actually referred to the Citizen and trivialized, I think, one of the journalists, it is Salmia Watoinora or something like that, because maybe they supported another candidate. So that tells you that that is something that is going to be there. The two things that people will want to say, and Ruto must look, is the transparency and in communication. Everything was be laid bare. I'll do some analysis maybe sometime on this. But the same energy that was put in telling the country who Kenya Kwanza had signed or who had crossed over from Azimio to Kenya Kwanza, the same energy that was put in telling the country, the leaders that attended specific rallies anywhere, the energy that was put to respond to President Uhuru Kenyatta during the public debacle on the campaign trail is the same energy and the transparency and the vibrance that should be replicated when Kenya Kwanza forms the government. Even though now we go, when it reaches there are two different platforms, that's of William Ruto, and there is that also, the Facebook Kenya, the State House Facebook page. So we are going to look at that. But lastly, the president must mend, if that relationship does not agree or it is not conducive, the relationship with the media. Because the, the media is going to play the role of actually communicating the government agenda to the public. And media plays a critical role even to boost the visibility of government projects and policies that maybe that are being done. The same media, I can tell you that people trust media than the government. So the media, if media supports something that government is doing, that specific project or policy intervention that is being brought forth gets the nod of the public, and public tends to take it very positive. So because the Kenya Kwanza is coming at a point where the country is divided, and because of that, the division legitimacy threshold is below, and I like the fact that even William Ruto acknowledged that in one of his interviews, I think with the CNN. He needs to mend his relationship with the media. Otherwise, even though they're also in business, and so government is one of the biggest advertisers, and they also need that relationship is both way. But again, as a new regime, to gain the trust, to gain the credibility, and to get the visibility, I think it should not be about revisit and revenge, and it should just work forth with the Kenyan media. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it. I have to mention that this does not mean that Kenyan media houses will not cover that inauguration. This only means that, of course, they'll have to restructure and look at how they can maneuver their way, whether they're going to get from one private contractor. I want to believe that perhaps that is the person that will be live streaming the same feed in William Ruto's Facebook page. But then it should just end at inauguration, so that if there is anything else, then the Kenyan media houses, or now the national broadcaster KBC, can take charge of it. That's my bold take.